Hi everyone, I am back with another north facing edition of paints, and this time I'm bringing you Farrow and Ball. Now I am a huge advocate for both Dulux and Farrow and Ball. I think there's great qualities about both of them, but there's just something about Farrow and Ball paint where you really can tell the quality when you're painting with it, how it looks once you've painted, and I just think they've got such an amazing range of colours and they're so highly pigmented. Now, north facing rooms are notoriously tricky to tackle, and before I delve into my favourite paints that I would recommend for north facing rooms, I'm just going to give you a bit of background about how you can choose the best paints for your north facing space. Now, I'm actually in a north facing room now. This is pure north and it does get a little bit of light in here, but typically in a north facing space any light you do get is blue light, which can make your room feel very cold. So picking the right colours to counteract that is really important, and picking the wrong types of colours will make your room feel even darker. There's two routes that you can take when picking north facing colours. If you're picking a white, you want something with either a yellow, a pink or a green undertone. These colours are perfect as they will counteract that blue light that's associated with north facing rooms, as well as adding a lovely warmth. Now if you avoid anything here, it's a bright white paint, as it's only going to reflect the little available light you have around the room, and because that's blue, it's going to make the room feel even colder. So never touch a bright white or anything that's sort of like a close to a pure brilliant white as possible. So those are the whites that you should check, and that's why I always encourage you to get a colour chart of your, whether it's Farrow and Ball or Dulux, because you can clearly see which colours have specific undertones to them. Now if you're on this video looking for the best north facing colours, it's probably likely you actually want to lighten your room, but you can also choose to lean into the dark side, especially if it's perhaps a snug, a TV snug, a living room, and you really want to embrace the coziness, then you can lean into the dark side and it can have a really wonderful effect. But obviously if it's like a bedroom or something like that, you genuinely want it to be kind of warming and refreshing and something that's not going to overstimulate your brain as you get into bed at night. So now we've gone over the basics, I'm going to jump straight in showing some of the best Farrow and Ball colours to tackle those dark north facing rooms. Now one of the best ways to find whites is to look for those warm neutrals. Now Farrow and Ball make it super easy. They actually have a warm and neutral section here, and these are all colours that will essentially work really well in a north facing room. Now I'm going to kick it off with one colour that I'm actually going to be using in my north facing space here, and that is Oxford Stone. Now this is a red based neutral, and if you really don't like those magnolia, very yellow based tones, going down a red based neutral is a really good idea, because it's gonna bring that gorgeous warmth without it feeling a little bit sickly in your space. Oxford Stone is understated, it works beautifully with pinks and reds, and in our own scheme we're going to go with a really fun wallpaper, which I will of course share on this channel as we get to the master bedroom, and it just brings a gorgeous warmth. If Oxford Stone feels a little bit too warm, you want something a little bit more pared back, I would go for Jerez White, which is just above Oxford Stone in the colour chart. I love Jerez White because it really is perfect for both traditional, contemporary and modern spaces. It works again really well with reds and pinks, but even if you want just a neutral colour scheme, it's beautiful for building in other colours as well. I am going to mention a couple of yellow based whites which are really popular and I think super effective for north facing rooms. Now the first one is New White. This delicate off-white shade I love because it's got a very subtle hint of warmth which comes from its yellow undertones. So it's not overly yellow, it doesn't come across as looking like magnolia, but it's super versatile for any room that you choose. And if you do want kind of a white aesthetic, it is closer to that bright white without it being too cold in the space. Now White Tie is another really similar shade I wanted to mention. It's in the same collection as New White is. It has got that yellow undertone to it, so it's a classic off-white shade, but it does bring that subtle warmth while keeping your room quite light, bright and airy. I'm going to mention a couple of greens here as well. Now you might typically think that green's kind of like a cold colour, but it's actually got a gorgeous warmth to it. It's natural, it reminds us of home, it keeps us in touch with the outside world, and it totally depends what shade you actually choose on how it makes a room feel. Of course, if you're going to go for a really deep olive green, it is going to make the space feel a little bit darker. So I'd recommend going for something like Mizzle, which we've got here, or Cromarty. And Cromarty is actually what I had in my old bedroom, and it just brings a gorgeous warmth with it. Now, Mizzle's one of their most popular greens. It's earthy, so if you want to create an earthy scheme, great for living rooms, great for bedrooms, and even for hallways. If you want to add a little bit of a colour with something slightly brighter to sort of lift your eye to the ceiling and make it feel a little bit bigger. But Mizzle and Cromarty are a couple of my favourites, so I really wanted to get those mentioned. And you might even choose to add these into a scheme if you're doing you're looking for a trim colour or a woodwork colour. It's a lovely way to add a little bit of warmth without making the entire space green. And as I mentioned, pink and red based colours are some of the best to go for if you want to brighten and create some warmth in a north facing room. Now, I have to mention setting plaster. Setting plaster is notoriously popular. If you love that new plaster look, this is the colour for you. And if you've ever had your room plastered, you'll know how lovely it feels, and you'll almost sit there and go, I kind of don't want to paint this. Like, I love this. I want to bottle this colour up. Now, setting plaster is the perfect colour to do that. It will bring a gorgeous, gorgeous warmth, and I think you can get away with using it in a room without it feeling overly feminine. The best way to do that is to add some masculinity in with some details, such as black, navy blue. You could do this to pieces of furniture or decor accessories, and all it's going to do is balance the colours out, and it's just going to make the room feel gorgeous. Another colour I absolutely love if you want to add an impact and warmth is red earth. Now, this colour definitely isn't for everyone, but I think if you love terracotta shades, that Mediterranean inspired feel, and if you're creating an earthy inspired space, this is a great colour. Now, you might choose to do it as a feature wall or go all in. It's going to add a little bit more darkness than a traditional off-white with a yellow or red-based undertone, but I just think it brings a gorgeous coziness with it, and I think you can get away with it really well in a bedroom and also in a living room or like a snug room. And I'm going to mention a couple more whites because I know that people love using whites in their home, and it can be really difficult finding the perfect one that's warm as well. Now, one I would mention is Dimity. Now, Dimity is quite a lot lighter than a couple of the ones I've already mentioned, such as Jerez White and Oxford Stone. It still has that red-based undertone to it. If you have a really, really large room, it's purely north facing, I think something like Dimity is a really great idea, and then you can choose to bring in other warmer colours. I would go with warm red or pink based tones, just so you can introduce that warmth and create a really light feeling space. And the last white I'm going to mention is Matchstick. Now, this one airs more on your sort of creamy, biscuity, yellow based colour. I absolutely love it if you want to create a neutral or a earthy based palette. It's great for building colours such as greens, terracottas, browns and other creams to create a really sumptuous and layered feel in your space. And of course, you might be on the opposite end of the spectrum. You might want to lean into the darkness, and it's a really, really effective way of creating a gorgeous interior design scheme whilst creating a super cozy space. Now, if I was to suggest some colours if you wanted to give that a go, I would suggest Stiff Key Blue, Hague Blue, Downpipe, Railings, Beverly, Studio Green and Green Smoke. There is so many more colours in the Farrow and Ball palette, which is why I always suggest picking one of these up. They're free, you can get them online or from your local B&Q store or Home Depot, and I really would recommend just looking through the palette. You can clearly see which ones are yellow based, red based undertones, pink based undertones, and it just gives you an idea of the colours. Once you've picked a few colours for your space that you really, really love, I'd still recommend getting a tester of each one and trying it in your space. This is so important in a north facing space because you might experience different levels of light in different areas, especially if you've got light flooding in from another window, such as a landing into a bedroom. It's going to affect how it looks throughout the space, and obviously you want to get into those darkest areas just to see how it looks. I hope you found today's video useful. If you have any other questions about picking north facing colours, perhaps there's a specific colour like a pink you want to see more of, please leave me a comment below and I'll come straight back to you. But other than that, if you found today's video useful, please do give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel to see more videos like this. As I mentioned, this is my north facing bedroom. I'm currently in a major renovation. This is the next room on the hit list, and I will be documenting our north facing space. So do check back in a few weeks time so you can see how that looks. But other than that, I hope you have a great day and I'll see you on my next video.